Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Brumfield, and I am the Career Services Specialist at the Colorado School of Public Health. And today I am talking with Swarnima. She graduated from our school in December 2019 with her MPH in Health Systems Management and Policy with a global track. And Swarnima is going to tell us today what she does for her career.
Hi, Katie. Thank you for having me for your coffee and careers chat. I love it, and I hope that people watching get something out of it. So I'm Swarnima Chaudhary. Most people know me as Nima, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I currently work as a technology project manager at a place called the National Mental Health Innovation Center. And it's based out of the CU Anschutz Campus, based out of the Chancellor's office. And we work in the area of digital mental health technologies, academia research, and behavioral health. So really trying to bring mental health technologies to this mental health care landscape that we're in today. So that's kind of my role. And I gotta say, being a CSPH alumni definitely was part and parcel of the success and interest and excitement that I have in my work today. So happy to talk about it.
Great. So how did the Colorado School of Public Health help you prepare for this career?
So I'll kind of go back to how I even decided to get into public health, because that story kind of helps inform how I got here. So back in 2013, I was experiencing mental health issues, and I was diagnosed earlier in the decade as bipolar type 2. And, I was going through treatment therapy, and I was also attending school, and I realized that one of the ways that I would feel empowered would be to join the crisis counseling center at the Johnson Center Crisis Center in Iowa City, Iowa. So I began volunteering, and I really got into the volunteer training and crisis counseling. And that opened up the world of how you can take, your psychology background and really implement it and help real world folks. And that's when the passion for mental health really grew. Then I finished my bachelor's degree, and this is going to sound a little cliche, but my mother, who heard that I didn't want to go and become an MD just yet, said, well, have you thought about a public health career? And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. But because of her background, she was able to tell me that public health is kind of that sweet spot between healthcare and real world implementation of how you take these ideas of healthy eating, healthy mind, healthy living, and really try and infuse it across the country. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And that's really where the journey started in public health career. And then I was looking and saw that community behavioral health and health systems management, these were all the options, and it just opened up that world. So that's how I got started in public health. Now, how you actually, Katie, helped me, and I'd just like to do a shout out, was because when I started at CSPH, I went in with this mindset of, I'm going to try and make the most of my graduate career, because during my bachelor's career, I was a little bit shyer, a little quieter, still really learning to step into my own as a leader, right? And so it's like, okay, take this opportunity. So, I took advantage of the introduction meetings that we had as an incoming graduate student, and I reached out to you. And we just connected. And once my first semester started, I learned about, we have to do practicums and capstones. So I felt safe enough to approach you and say, I have these 3 requirements. I want to do something in mental health. I want to do something cool. And I want to make a difference. And you whipped out your list of the folks that you knew, and that's really how that journey started. I reached out to NMHIC because their mission statement of reducing stigma using technology and research and real world implementation really resonated with me. And, you know, it was through connections and using career services that that whole process started. And, you know, through all the courses that I took through HSMP management, I'm doing project management right now. And I have an idea of how healthcare systems work, which makes me that much more effective in the work that I'm doing because I have a framework. So, you know, the resources of like connections and then also that theoretical background of managing, looking at policy, how do you make sense of all this information that's coming at you? Those really empowered me to be the project manager that I am today.
I remember that meeting like it was yesterday when you just got into school and you're already, I think you told me you wanted to start your own hotline.
Yes, that was, yep, that was my vision.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Let's see how we can get you there.
Yeah. I do remember that. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it was a long time ago. So what were the types of things you did throughout school that really helped you learn maybe some extra skills, you know, besides the things you learned in your courses?
So I really took advantage of extracurricular. So I think one thing that was really helpful was just getting plugged into career services. Student council was another one. So I just, you know, I let my curiosity lead me because these were the passions that I really wanted to engage in. One big thing was mental health. So I joined the Students for Mental Health on the Anschutz campus and spoke on the anti-stigma panel about my struggles as a graduate student with mental health and how I cope with it. So those were the ways that I became engaged. One of the proud moments that I'd like to just share is you know, as students, as peers, when I started my career, others started saying, you know, there's a sense of, you know, there's a possible sense of community, but we haven't tapped into it yet. How do we grow that somehow? And so we all thought of like, let's start a public health peer mentoring program. And, you know, it really just took some perseverance, some dedication and emails back and forth, but we got it started. And so it was very organic, but it was, you know, a bunch of us that saw an issue occur or that was happening. And then we just used our skills that we already had as human beings and as public health professionals and just started it. So that's how I really was also able to build community because I know that grades were important, but those connections really were what made the material come to life in my head. So that really kickstarted my graduate career for sure.
The mentoring program that you spearheaded is now in its second year, and it's still very, very popular, and we're having a lot of success with connecting first year and second year students. So thank you for pushing for that. And you definitely left a great legacy at our school because it's a great program. And I think not only does it help bring that sense of community within our school, but it helps with that mental health piece that you feel passionate about, and I do too, because I think the more we feel connected, the better, right?
Absolutely.
So in your current career, what would you say some of the challenges you face?
Challenge. Okay, so let me back up and actually explain what I do as project manager at NMHIC. So I'm gonna do a couple of lists because I was thinking about this, but I'm responsible for creating and maintaining site relationships between community partners and tech partners that are creating or wanting to create evidence-based mental health applications, virtual reality programs, etc. I do things like providing ongoing consultation, technical assistance, and resource development to community sites regarding content application and updates. So, behavioral health providers are increasingly needing to use technology to do a lot of their work. So helping in that and trying to infuse some a safe space around technology of like, it's okay, technology is not going to always work. So that's part of what I do. I also do a lot of conducting focus groups, one-on-one meetings, surveys to collect data to inform tech companies and our own internal processes. I help design, organize, and conduct research using established scientific protocols. It's all done in a group, obviously. I'm not the only person doing it, but a lot of these you might be like, oh yeah, I took a class on grant writing. That's going to be helpful. Thinking about how you conduct research, informed consent, the importance of that, how you do those things. All these things are now coming into play where I'm able to use those skills to do my job and get paid. I collect and prepare and analyze research data. I summarize findings and publish results to our sites in a way that would be easy for them to take in. And I provide supervision and guidance to the interns that come in and project managers, et cetera, that are just starting off with us. So I wear all sorts of different hats, and that's what public health is really all about, right? I have now solid project management skills of, using project management software to make sure that I'm on top of things, but really it's about establishing and tracking those relationships, because people are going to come and talk to me because they're like, oh yeah, I talked to Nima and she seemed to be knowledgeable in her area. So, I do a lot of transferable skills type things that my, degree really prepped me for.
Any challenges in your, just
Yeah.
some things that maybe you weren't foreseen would be a challenge, or things you had to learn maybe on the job that you didn't know coming in?
Yes. So thank you for bringing my attention back to that main question. The challenges, certainly some growing pains, because public health, the masters really gave us the theoretical skills and the knowledge base, right? But I did have to take courses in project management, which there are certificates, et cetera. But I also had to take some courses around business, business models. And I did take, healthcare economics, but when you're working in other industries like technology and Silicon Valley, they operate in a different world. So kind of having to learn that, the language that they use in their processes and the algorithms and processes they use. Those were all things that I had to learn when I was on my own. So that was a challenge. And then the other thing that I really am finding to be a challenge is, how do I connect with all the people that are doing all these amazing things, but we end up being siloed? So, one of the cool things about the center that I work at is that we are an interdisciplinary team. So I'm working with PhD psychologists and, those working in business with MBAs, and those that are doing on the ground work in our communities. So I get to see that interdisciplinary work happening, but it's just not enough yet. So those were definitely the challenges of having to go and search for all this knowledge that, if there wasn't siloing, maybe it wouldn't be so hard to get. So those are definite challenges. And then finally, balancing my mental health with all these pressures of, being really good or seeming to come across as knowing everything. The way that I have tried to balance my mental health as an early career professional is, still engaging in those extracurricular activities that do help me. So I am still part of like the Colorado Public Health Association, because that still lets me plug into that public health brain that I might not always have access to. And then I actually do incorporate mindfulness meditation, literally 2 minutes of absolute silence with nothing. With the pandemic, you know, I've had to switch to remote working. I still keep to a schedule, and I make sure to walk around the block and then start my day at work so that I have that change. So doing all those little things of keeping that work balance going has really helped with my mental health, and this continuing education journey as well.
Those are great tips. Are there any podcasts or books or apps or anything that you recommend for other people with wanting to meditate or self-care?
Yeah, so you know, one of the fun things that I get to do as part of my job is doing a lot of looking at what all is out there in the mental health app arena. And I really do like using Headspace or Smiling Mind, which is really geared towards younger folks, but the marketing's just a little bit different from Headspace. But those are very approachable apps. I like using Insight Timer so that I stay away from my phone, and that also helps me be mindful in little bite-sized ways. And then there's an app called Nod that helps me stay in touch with folks that are perhaps experiencing similar anxieties as me. It's a peer-based application. So just those things really do help. NMHIC partnered with Tulane School of Social Work to just come up with a self-care website with just some fun, free, or low-cost resources. It's selfcaretips.tulane.edu. That are listeners, if you're a graduate student or incoming and you just want some ways of doing self-care, check out that website. But yeah, there are definitely some resources out there.
That's great. I'm gonna check out that website. That's super cool. What advice would you give for someone that's interested in pursuing a career in public health?
Advice, really, I think, yeah, I'll say it again, network, and not in the, you know, schmoozy, sleazy sense, but of the really creating those relationships. My, you know, North Star was mental health and mentorship, you know, and I put that out there, and so people gravitated towards me. And so, you know, don't be afraid to send those cold emails. You know, one of the things I fought against internally was a lot of the people seemed like rock stars in their field, but remembering that they're just hard workers. So reaching out to them, you know, the worst thing they could do is say no, or I don't have time. But, you know, really building those relationships, because that's how you find out about opportunities or websites where there are opportunities. So that would be my biggest advice. Bring your passion and do that relationship building.
Yeah, I think that's throughout public health. You know, the career life of public health will always be relationship building and networking.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else you think we haven't touched on that you'd like future public health professionals to know?
Well, to the future public health professionals, we need you. We need your multi-talented, multi-dimensional, you know, backgrounds to come in, because as we've seen this past year, and we should have been seeing for a long time, but our passion and our policy making, our backgrounds, our knowledge, they're all needed. So, you know, MPHs and public health in general open up a lot of doors. So welcome. We need you. We want you. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Nima.
Thanks, Katie.
Bye.